Well, the Rockies sure aren't getting better, but I will say there is one reason that I have a little bit of hope long-term, and that is the Colorado Rockies' new manager, Warren Schaeffer. We break down why I think he is the future manager of the Rockies next on the DNVR Rockies Podcast. What is up, everyone? Welcome in to the DNVR Rockies Podcast presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code DNVR365. Place a bet for $5 and you can get $150 back in bonus bets. You need all the money you can get when you watch the Colorado Rockies because that is where we are right now. But hey, we actually have something positive to start the show with, at least from my perspective, and we got a great show ahead of us. We're talking all things Colorado Rockies, the bad history that they had, Warren Schaeffer as the new manager. We're talking about German Marquez, Chase Dollander, and a little Yankees baseball to come round up the show, and we've got an incredible crew to do it. Kurkjian Saez here, Spencer Smith, and Blake Street Banters' very own Noah Spirek joining us for the first time in like a year.
Yes,
What's
sir.
up, Noah?
I'm hyped to be here. I'm in a whole new studio this time. This is awesome.
And Bo Nix is apparently throwing out the first pitch tomorrow, which I know is huge for you.
Yeah, tonight it's going to be a big time event for me. Yeah,
tonight. Okay, so tonight, that might actually be the biggest storyline going into this weekend is
10-day contract for Bo to start. Maybe start him on Sunday.
I gotta say, Noah and I, we were in the cafeteria yesterday, and someone was talking, and they were talking about this like new bartender that got hired. It was like the Rocky staff was talking about this like new bartender that got hired, and Noah looked at me and he's like, "What are the chances we see that guy out on the mound for the Rockies here soon?" Like we're at the point where anything could happen. So Bo Nix,
A quick rise right up the going from bartender to starting pitcher.
So we actually learned how the Rockies and how, at least the Rockies, I can't speak for other teams, but like how the Rockies actually organize these like first pitch, appearances from celebrities, from, players. Cause I feel like a lot of times the fans kind of think that, when you get a draft pick, a team has a good player, they will just kind of automatically end up getting brought in to do a first pitch at whatever team's stadium they're playing at. But apparently the Broncos actually have to pitch the Rockies, Bo Nix throwing the first pitch or whoever, Russell Wilson back, a couple years ago. So the Broncos are the ones who actually have to reach out and pitch it to the Colorado Rockies. That was news to me. So that means the Broncos actually said, you know what? We want Bo Nix to go out there and throw the first pitch for the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, and I feel like I deserve some credit because last year I went to Rock's PR and I asked them, Russ threw out the first pitch. Why can't Bo do it? And then they gave me basically the same rundown you just described. But the odds that he's doing it while I'm here for a whole 6 days.
So we give you credit then, is that's what we're saying. Yeah, yes. Noah, you have Noah to thank for getting the Bo Nix first pitch today. Well, look, I want to start the show on a positive note, relatively, because we don't do that a lot. And I already see William in the chat who's already pissed off, and I get it. We're all pissed off too. We're going to have plenty of time in this show to be very upset about what the Rockies continue to do and how historically bad they have been. But I do want to start by at least throwing a little bit of a positive conversation out there. And I don't know if you guys have seen this. This clip came from our buddy Patrick Lyons, who was, and I know, Noah, you were there in the presser yesterday as well. But Riley, if you could pull up the clip of Warren Schaeffer here in a second. Warren Schaeffer talked to the media yesterday, and this is the first really week we've seen Warren Schaeffer as the manager of the Rockies at Coors Field. And I'll start before we get into any of this by saying, I'm aware that the manager of a professional baseball team doesn't hold a lot of stock in the grand recovery of the Colorado Rockies, that there's a lot more things that need to be done. But I want you to listen to this clip from Warren Schaeffer and kind of soak in how it makes you feel just hearing him talk like this. So Riley, cue up this clip, and this is what Warren Schaeffer had to say before yesterday's game.
We are in a very unique situation at the moment. And for me, opportunity abounds in the situation we're in. If we don't look at it like that, shame on us. Shame on us. We could take this moment that we're in right now and look back 3 years from now and say, boy, we used that the right way to move forward. But if we're going to commiserate and and wallow in our pit, that's no way for a man to act, and that's no way for a group of players and just a group of people to act if you want to move forward.
Hell yeah. I love that. And again, I'll say this. It doesn't really matter because the Rockies are still going to be bad. Warren Schaeffer can't go out there and swing the bat for every single guy. But that's the kind of mindset that I wish the rest of the organization, especially the front office, had through all of this. And so to see Warren Schaeffer go out there and have that kind of head on his shoulders, I'm like, all right, I'll take that. That gives me confidence in him at least.
Yeah, and afterwards he went up to us and he was like, sorry guys, got a little fired up. And we're like, no, you don't have to apologize. That's awesome to hear that from a leader of a clubhouse and a team that's historic for the wrong reasons. You got to have a guy with fire lead the way.
Yeah, and as a fan and as all the fans watching the games, if you see a guy, whether it's a player, whether it's a coach, whether it's Warren Schaeffer, whoever, have some fire and feel like they're getting actually mad, not that it's saying they're going to start winning games because of that, but it shows you that they care because as we all know, they do care. They're professional athletes, but at the same time, some of these games you watch, you're like, does anyone like have a shred of confidence? Does anyone care that this game is actually close? Does anyone care that they have second and third one out and need to score a run? It just feels like they don't care. And that's when the like empathy and the real low levels of fandom and being a part of this team, whether you're watching, whether you're on the team, whatever, really start to set in, and somebody has to stop that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And Drew makes a good point in the chat. He says, is Toglia close to DFA territory? Does he have a leash through the end of the year? To answer that question specifically, I think he has a leash absolutely through the end of the year. But that is an interesting kind of side topic on this Warren Schaeffer discussion because Schaeffer has kept Toglia out of the lineup for almost half, right? Half of the Philly series. Is that, am I remembering?
2 straight games.
2 straight games at least. So half of this Philly series, Schaeffer has taken Toglia out of the lineup. And I wasn't there for the presser yesterday. I showed up a little bit late. Did he address the Toglia situation?
Yeah, pregame, they said that he's been working through a very tight routine of things that basically a checklist of things that Warren wants him to work on. And so it's just a timeline till he gets back. But I'm sure he'll be in there today. It's just they're trying to figure this thing out one little adjustment at a time.
But that's good, though. I want to see more of that. And I think, you could ask the question of if Bud Black was still the manager of the Colorado Rockies, would he be willing to sit a guy like Michael Toglia consecutive games instead of just giving them one game off and then bringing them right back into the fold? Do you think he'd be committed to that? I don't think he would.
No, it's something very out of the ordinary. And I mean, I know how to fix Michael Toglia. I said that. You just got to hit right-handed. Right? You just got to stop hitting left-handed and we'll be fine. No, but on a serious note, it's cool, I guess is maybe the word, to see them trying something different. Like, hey, we're going to keep you out of the lineup a couple of days. You've been struggling. You've been striking out a lot. Let's try to change something. Let's try to change your routine and really work behind the scenes, get you back out there. I mean, like if he hits a home run tonight or goes 2 for 4, hits a couple of doubles, you're like, hey, maybe they're doing something that's working, which we haven't been able to say a lot.
And I mean, we saw that from Jordan Beck. Jordan Beck got sent down to the minors and came back and has been one of the better hitters on the Rockies team over the last couple weeks or almost month that he's been back in the lineup. So, there is something to be said about some of that longer breaks to get back into the swing of things. Ryan McMahon took a couple days off, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and he's been better. So, that can happen. That can improve your team sometimes. And I like that Warren Schaeffer is willing to rock the boat a little bit, so to speak.
Yeah, and with McMahon specifically, I think it was in game 2 of the Phillies series. McMahon was out, said just a rest day, but Schaeffer said he's going to have to be ready late in the game. Go figure, he comes in against a righty and gets 2 doubles. Yeah. And then yesterday, you can tell McMahon's trying to make adjustments because against a lefty late in the game, Christian, we talked about it, he tried to lay down a bunt first pitch, ended up popping it up. But he's trying to do things differently to get on base against lefties. And to your point against Schaeffer, maybe making lineup changes differently than Bud. I mean, McMahon was an everyday player. And now if Schaeffer is going to platoon him more against lefties to keep him away from them, then I think it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Warren Schaeffer is a kind of meaningless piece when it comes to like, how do you fix the Rockies? Like his situation doesn't hold a lot of weight because, again, you have this whole idea of like you're just rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. It doesn't really matter what he does. The Rockies are still going to be bad. But I think the one thing that really stands out to me, and it kind of showed up in the clip that we showed, is the fact that he is not shying away from embracing the reality of the situation. Bud Black, Dick Momfort, Bill Schmidt even, and we're going to talk about Bill Schmidt and some of the comments he made that just pissed me off beyond belief later in the show. But like they have this propensity to sit there and kind of bury their head in the sands, at least, visibly, at least it feels like that.
That's baseball, dude.
Yeah, like where you say, like this is just, we're a young team. We're gonna figure it out eventually, right? Like there's a lot of future ahead of us, and we're starting to realize that that's not true. That none of that is true. If you actually open your eyes and watch the Rockies, that is not the case. And now, while Warren Schaeffer isn't going to go out and actively bash his team, he's very critical of what the team has done wrong, and also the things that they are doing right that they're hoping to build on. And he's kind of taking this we're growing together approach. And I appreciate that because, look, we can sit here as the media and even as in a podcast network and just shit on the team all day long. And we're okay with that because that's just, we're having to analyze this historically bad team. But as a coach, like you have to find something to grow on. That's your job. So I like the way that he's balancing both the negative, being realistic about that, being honest about it, but also, finding balance in the positive and not just being all, butterflies and daisies and, we're fine. This is nothing bad is happening. Like, no, this is really bad. But, we've got to get through this and learn from this, and grow from this.
Yeah. And I think it's just the change of maybe culture that you hope to get out of Warren Schaeffer. Now, he's a part of this. It's not like they brought somebody in from a different organization or he's had success in the majors, but it does lend itself to the opportunity of growth together where he's never been a major league manager. I've been arguing about this with people about the Nuggets too. Like when you're in a situation which Warren Schaeffer has been the last couple of years and you see how bad it is from within, I almost think that helps you be able to change things of like, I know what is going wrong from the inside, and how can I fix that? Now, can he fix it to the level that we'd all hope? Probably not, but at least he's going to make moves and do things that will move on the right path, or so his right path that he thinks will make this team better in the future.
And it's so refreshing to see a change in attitude because historically, the Rockies, by any stretch of the imagination, have not been a good franchise. But they've never been the worst. They've basically always been bottom 5 team in baseball, but never number 1 bad.
Mediocrity almost.
Yes. And they've been satisfied with that. This year, I mean, Schaefer said it himself, they're in a unique position. If you don't take shots while you're in this position, then you will never be able to get out of it. You have to try new things, and that's what the Rockies are doing.
Yeah, and again, just the willingness to accept, right? And not be complacent, but to accept where you are. Again, it's pissed me off over and over the last few years that the Rockies will not be able to admit that they're in a rebuild. Well, we're reconstructing. We're not rebuilding. It's like, no, you're rebuilding. Embrace that, right? That doesn't always have to be a bad thing. The Royals were rebuilding a couple years ago, and they did it correctly, and they embraced the rebuild, and they became a almost World Series team within 2 years. So the Rockies can, if you shift your mindset into this is a team that is, that we understand is bad. There are things that are wrong, and we're going to take the steps necessary to change that and make some hard decisions, make some very challenging, maybe, rock the boat type of trades. We can get ourselves out of this eventually. That's baseball, right? Like that, you can figure it out.
Yeah, well, look at teams like a perfect example of this year is the Orioles. 2-3 years ago, they were a 100+ loss team. Everybody's like, where's this team going to go? Then they make the playoffs, and now they're back to firing their manager in May. They're bad. Like, this isn't easy, and I'm not going to sit here and say that it's easy, and we can take out the whole sell the team. Yes, we understand that whole top realm of it. But when you look at the actual players on the field and the actual coaches you have, there's got to be different ways to do things to try to figure something out.
Yeah. And just the reality of the situation is there. I do think the interesting part for me is that he's going to, I think from a challenging perspective, and we're getting kind of into the weeds here, but he's going to have maybe a hard time, or it's going to be a challenge for him to learn how to manage the pitchers just because he's an infield coach, right? Like, and he's talked about that. He's been open about it, saying, hey, it might take me a second to figure out, how to manage our pitching staff and how to run that. Now, he was the manager of a couple minor league teams, so it's not like he's unfamiliar with managing a team. But this is the big leagues, and you've got a pitching core that is not that good realistically in the grand scheme of things, especially the starters. So That's the only thing that I think, from my perspective, he really needs to grow on. But I think the Rockies would be in the right place to re-sign him again after this year. He likes to play the young players. He seems to have a youth movement type of mindset. So I'm okay with it. Would you be okay with seeing him as the manager moving forward?
I would, because I think, number one, it will not be difficult for him to earn that job this season. If the bar is avoiding being the worst team in Major League history, then I think the Rockies can get there. I know what the on pace is right now, and it's been such a struggle. But Warren Schaeffer, like you said, he was a big part of while the Rockies were good in 2017 and 18. The minor leagues were a little bit struggling. And over the past several years, he worked his way up to the big leagues. And even before that, he was in the minor leagues coaching the organizational teams, making them better. And, we talked about it last year. The Rockies' best players are in that infield. Tovar, McMahon, I know he struggled this year, but he was an all-star last year. Tolia, think about how good he looked last year. The Rockies' best players are in that infield, and that's the position group that he coaches.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how he progresses as the manager. But like I said, we had to start on something a little bit positive. But as is the vibe of the Colorado Rockies right now, it can't all be positive. And we have some bad history we have to talk about. And I also have something after this next break. There's something new that I'm starting to notice popping up at Coors Field that I haven't seen yet this year. And after this Phillies series, I think we're going to see a lot more of this at Coors Field. We'll talk about that coming up next. Well, folks, got to give a shout out right now to our friends over at Empire Today. If you are looking to replace your floors, Empire Today has you covered. They are the flooring experts, and they bring their flooring experts. They bring the showroom basically to your home, right? You all know how it's like when you go into a nice, I don't know, like an IKEA or something like that, and you get to see all the nice floors and the furniture all set up, and you envision what you want your house to look like, and you think, oh my gosh, what if my living room looked like this? Well, with Empire Today, they can actually make those dreams a reality. They make those dream floors. They bring that right into your home. They've got this cool thing called the Virtual Floor Designer, and that it shows you basically what that floor is going to look like in your home. You take a picture of your living space, and you can see what that floor is going to look like if it's in your house. So if you're interested in getting your floors done, especially this summer with those summer projects, check out our friends over at Empire Today. Schedule a free in-home estimate, because some things are just better at home. DNVR listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code DNVR. Yes, you heard that right. A $350 discount when using code DNVR. Restrictions apply. Visit Empire Today/DNVR for full details. We'll also want to give a shout out to our friends right now over at UC Health, because Thursday, June 5th is the 7th annual UC Health Healthy Swings Charity Home Run Derby. Broncos players like Cortland Sutton, Alex Singleton, Marvin Mims are going to be stepping up to the plate at Coors Field to raise some money. I know, Noah, you're a big fan of that since you're a Broncos guy. UC Health has donated over $900,000 to local charities over 6 iterations, supporting Coloradans with food insecurity, cancer screenings, and veteran mental health challenges. This year's beneficiary is Freedom Service Dogs, which is an awesome a foundation, by the way. Freedom Service Dogs is incredible, and so really cool to see them partnering up with UC Health. Just all a bunch of great stuff going on right now. DNVR Rockies is brought to you by UC Health, the official healthcare partner of the Colorado Rockies. Go to uchealth.org for more information. UC Health, live extraordinary. All right, well, Capwise in the chat might have got a head start on this segment we got going on here. The Brown Bags have been making their debut, and maybe it's the first time that they might have to make their debut on the Colorado Rockies podcast. The Rockies have made history as they set the record for the worst 50-game start in MLB history. They are amongst the 1876 Red Stockings, who were 6-44, the 1895 Colonels, who were 7-43, the 1884 Unions, who were 7-43, and the 1889 Colonels, who were 8-42 for the worst record in the history of baseball. Can we get a round of applause? We have made it. Bad history is being celebrated on this show. Look, we're poking fun, but it is truly impressive in all the wrong ways where the Colorado Rockies have been at. And I think we're going to start to see a lot more Spencers and Brown Bags among us at Coors Field here soon.
Yeah, well, this is the key to the change that we all want. And we can say it a million times, but the key to the change is literally everyone basically boycotting and protesting what's going on and making their voice heard, and it going national, which it's starting to. Like that is the change that's needed. We're still going to have the team. We're still going to have the players. We still have to root for those players if you're a fan. I'm still doing it. But the overall change of what we all want to see, this is how it gets done. And the Rockies don't even want to see this. They had people taking them down, safety reasons, like.
Which I understand that.
Sideways.
Like,
yeah,
whatever. You know, I mean, it's the policy. It's whatever. I mean, there was a guy yesterday who had that. I mean, we have a picture of this guy. Throw that photo up there, Riley, when you get a chance. There was a guy yesterday at the game, and I think he flew under the radar. He made it.
He had it on there for 9 innings and did not take it off to eat. Did not take it off to check his phone. It was maybe tilted back, but
look at that.
Is he in a wife beater?
Yeah, he was.
Incredible.
He was.
What a guy.
Yeah, and he was sitting in the section of Phillies fans too, by the way.
Which one?
Yeah, I was
true.
going to say the entire infield section.
Yeah, he was sitting behind the third base side. There was a lot of red around him, but that's the reality of it, right? Like you go to baseball games in Colorado, and it's just the opposing team. How many people do you think are going to be there at the game tonight, and how many people are going to be Yankees fans?
Sellout and 80%.
80%.
I was going to say over 45,000 and at least 70%.
Yeah, at least. I will say there was, when the Rockies did good things, there was a surprisingly loud cheers, but I think it's more of cheers of like, oh my God, they just got, a runner to third. Like Brett Doyle just hit a triple and then they didn't score him from third with 1 out, but that's, beyond the point.
We celebrate the mini wins.
We see, yeah. Getting on base is enough for us right now.
You out-hit the Phillies yesterday.
Did we really?
Yeah, it was 7-4.
I did not know.
Didn't feel like it.
It did not feel like
did.
it.
They had 4 hits.
I know Herman. Yeah, Herman pitched well. We'll talk about Herman later in the show. Okay, if we look back and pity cheers in the chat from Jackson Apple. Yes, it is. It is pity cheers. If we look back when this season started, if you could close your eyes, and think back to when we were in spring training, the Rockies had one of the best spring training records. We were sitting here on the show saying, you know what? They didn't make a lot of moves in the offseason, but they got Thairo Estrada. He looked like he could come back and be a little bit better this year for the Rockies. And, you assumed that their bats were going to be better. You had a full starting pitching staff that was, healthy for the first time in years. Your bullpen looked like it was going to be better. And we thought to ourselves, hell, we bet on it, that the Rockies were going to be better than they were last year in 2024. They lost 101 games last year, 103 games last year. We thought best case they win or they lose 90 games. Worst case they maybe lose 100 again, but we figured they would be somewhere in the middle. Did you ever expect them to be on pace for 26 wins by the end of the year? On pace for 74 games back, 58 games back from 4th place in the division. Did you ever remotely think that was a possibility?
Not at all. And the Rockies were 8-3 through their first 11 spring training games, and they're 8-42 right now. That is crazy.
That's crazy.
It felt like the Rockies, based on last year, could have at least a 5-game improvement simply off of not blowing 5-run 9th inning leads, which they did an MLB record 5 times last year. For them to take as big of a step back as we've seen in almost every facet. Historically, the Rockies have been a very good fielding team because you have to be to win games at Coors Field and be all right. This year, they're near the top in errors, if not number 1. They've given up the most runs, and they've scored, before this series, it was the 2nd least. So it's all 3 facets of the game. I cannot believe it.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to not respond to what you were just saying. It's just hilarious hearing you break this down so seriously and just looking at Spencer with this bag on his face. It's incredible.
Summarizes Rockies Nation, though.
It does. It really does. Because you're right. There has to be like some sort of, like there is a baseball team and a baseball, there is baseball going on in the background. And, fans can wear paper bags and we can, shout at the team from the rooftops as much as we want. And I think a lot of people are. If you go read even some of the most, I don't want to call them homers because they're not homers, but the most neutral voices, the Patrick Saunders, the even Thomas Hardings, the writers, the Denver Post, even Mike Kliss, from 9 News. It's starting to turn. Like it is a very negative outlook, understandably, from the media as a whole.
And when the Rockies make national media, it's never for anything positive.
Sure.
waking up and seeing the Rockies being a feature story on ESPN.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not used to that, but it's because they're 8-42.
Yeah, they got a segment on Pardon the Interruption, and it was historically bad start, and they discussed what was going on or what was not going on with the Rockies. And, you know, hearing you break it down and all the positions and where we thought they would be, it is unfathomable to me.
Is,
and that and I, as maybe the biggest Rockies homer on the entire planet, I would bet somebody to like challenge me on that. I'm starting to get like empathetic about it. Other than my anti-Rockies bets, which are making me a lot of money, and now I'm featured on an ESPN
So much
article.
so that you're getting written about. Yes.
Other than that, like it's hurting me so much right now. Like it fucking hurts.
I know.
It hurts.
I agree.
And like we talked about, when we look at a positive part of the team, and we do talk about the bullpen at being a decent piece and not blowing 5 ninth inning leads. Well, you got to have a ninth inning lead first of all. But in the last week, just since we did our last show, 0 wins and 1 game where you thought you were going to steal one from the Phillies, and your supposed strength, which never really has high leverage situations, so you don't know how good they actually are, comes in and blows the lead and almost on cue. And you lose the game by 6 runs.
I know.
It's like it's like anything that can and will go wrong is going wrong.
I mean, I say it, Momfort's Law. Anything that can go wrong with the Rockies will go wrong. And that is what we've seen this year. It is, I've said this over and over. I feel like every day I wake up and it's going to be a bad dream. And the Rockies are going to go on some run. And I mean like an actual run, not just like, oh, they win 2 games in a row. Like they win a couple series in a row. And remember last year when I started with DNVR, the Rockies won a series against the Cubs. They won a series against the Red Sox. They won a series again. I think they swept the Padres. They won a series against the Diamondbacks. I'd be shocked if we win a single series this year. Like, that's the crazy part. I know. But prove me wrong. Show me something. Show me you can win more than just 2 games in a row.
It feels like they'll luck into winning a series. There's no way they can go a full 162 game slate without winning a series.
Riley, clip that.
But
We may use that in September.
oh man, no. But remember last year, to your point though, the Rockies had a 7-game winning streak in May. Think about that now. They've won 2 games in a row once this year.
I would like a 7-inning winning streak. Like a lead for 7 innings would be about where I would peak now.
Yeah, it's just tough. And to your point, I mean, the national baseball narrative is negative, of course. Tim Kurkjian just called the Rockies this morning bad for baseball. I can understand where they're coming from on that. Again, there's so many different ways you can look at that. But I think, to me, that doesn't bug me as much because the national media is doing what we did to the White Sox last year, looking at it from the outside and saying, God, I can't imagine how bad it must be to be a White Sox fan. Like, the White Sox are just run so poorly. What still gets me, what still frustrates me more than anything else, is if you saw the Mike Kliss article where he interviewed Bill Schmidt. Bill Schmidt, again, defended the Rockies, which I don't fault him for because that's his job. But he went beyond just defending the Rockies and saying he feels bad for the fans and the players and whatever. He said he feels bad for the ownership group. And I just can't. I cannot handle that kind of conversation, that kind of narrative, because the ownership group, and this is a baseball conversation. We're not talking about them as human beings. We're talking about them from a baseball perspective. The ownership group is the reason we are in this situation to begin with. So from whether you do your job or not do your job, the ownership group is the reason we are here. And so I don't feel bad for them. I feel bad for the fans. I feel bad for the players. But I do not feel bad for the ownership group.
The crazy thing about Bill Schmidt saying it is like you being a shitty kid when you're in high school and like wrecking your parents' house and be like, I feel bad for my parents. It's on you.
Yeah.
You're the one that did this.
Yeah.
You're the one that's part of this. Like, don't get me wrong. Would he like to be able to spend more money and maybe get certain players, which they finally allowed him to do, and he gets Chris Bryant, signing of the century there. But at the same time, it's on him. He's the one like also part of the problem. And saying he feels bad for ownership, he's just a shitty GM, and then the ownership has to eat it too. And that, not that they're good, but it's like directly his problem as well. Like, you should feel bad for yourself. You should just fucking be better.
I know and that's what I mean. This is the baseball side of this. Like, this is a business. You have to be able to do your job, get results, and if you're not getting results, people are going to be upset. The media is going to light you up, and that's just going to be the way it is. And And like I said, I think even the nicest versions of the media, the Denver Post writers, the 9 News, those they're starting to turn, and that's just the reality of it. It's why I liked Warren Schaeffer going and taking the approach of like, look, yeah, we, without saying it like this, like we kind of suck, and we need to make the most out of sucking right now so that we can be a team that gets better from here, so that we don't make this same mistake again.
Yeah, I was not able to read the article, but to the point about feeling bad for the players and for the fans, the players, they need to be better, and they know that, but they are in no position to succeed right now, given what the front office has given them.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of history, everyone's talking about the White Sox might get, surpassed for being the worst team ever in one season. At this point last year, the White Sox had 15 wins. The Rockies have basically half of that with 8.
Yeah.
So it has to get so much better quickly.
Yeah.
And with the upcoming schedule, I'm just not sure it can happen.
And Drew makes the point of the century here. Silver lining.
This is exactly what we're all hoping for.
Yeah.
This is the worse it gets, and the more it gets talked about, and the more it gets nationalized, and the more everybody talks about it, you got to think something inside him, if it already hasn't popped up, like, I have to get out of this.
And I think he was the one who made the Bud Black decision, because again, we had talked about this already, and no, I hadn't talked about it with you, but I don't think Bill Schmidt goes out on record 24 hours before firing Bud Black and says, we have all the faith in the world in Bud Black. I think that was a Dick Monfort decision that kind of blindsided Bill Schmidt. So again, I think Monfort is starting to see that, but it goes beyond all of that. Troy Rank has an incredible article that also with the Denver Post that just came out. He's a columnist, so he does different work than what Patrick Saunders does. But he wrote about, 5 ways, I think, to fix the Rockies is kind of what he was saying, like 5, ways. And his recommendations, just to generalize it, was basically like, a new president of baseball operations, or creating a president of baseball operations, a new GM, like bringing in outside voices, it feels simple to us. And yet the ownership group, the management, the front office seems to feel stubborn in saying, you know what? The way we're doing it right now is the right way, and we just have to wait. Eventually it'll happen. Eventually it'll figure itself out. And what we've seen is that that's not the case, that eventually it's just continued to get worse. And so we're hoping that at some point this historically bad team will force Dick Monfort and Bill Schmidt, or whoever's in charge, to make some changes and to mix things up a little bit. So we do have to take our next break, but after the break, I do kind of want to talk a little bit more about what do we think needs to be done to help get the Rockies back on track, specifically in the minors. We've got our minor league expert here, Noah Spirek, hanging out with us today. So we're going to talk about some of the perspectives from the minor leaguers, and is there help on the way at some point for the Rockies? We'll break all of that down coming up here in just a moment. Well, Rockies baseball is in full swing, whether you like it or not, and that means we are just about ready to dive all in with our friends at Coors Light. But look, whether it's baseball season or not, Coors Light just hits harder than anything. And it is one of my favorite things about, Coors Field and Rockies baseball, or just baseball as a whole. Noah, you and I actually got the chance to go for the first time up to the rooftop the other day and crack open a nice cold Coors Light. That was pretty fun.
Being 21 never felt so good.
I know. Last time you were on the show, I think you were like 15 years old.
I could see that coming from
his mom dropped him off here.
Yeah. We brought it. He was actually dropped off by the school bus on the way here. But no, now you're 21. You're old enough to get a Coors Light at the rooftop, and that was about as good of a moment as you could expect. It's been a long time coming, man.
Oh, it was great, and we were fortunate enough to get right on the balcony.
We did. I know. We were actually got a spot because the rooftop gets a little packed. But Coors Light rooftop bar. I know some of the DNVR folks are going to be actually at the rooftop. It's an unofficial Friday rooftop. Again, not one of our official Friday rooftops, but just given who they're playing and the vibes, there's going to be a lot of people hanging out.
You might catch an Aaron Judge ball up there today.
You might at the Jack or a Sam Hilliard home run by Aaron Judge. Yeah, you might get one of those up there. But yeah, make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instant Cart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company in Golden, Colorado. Also, folks, if you own a small business, or maybe you're a manager of a small business, you got to check out our friends over at LinkedIn when you are trying to hire. Find the right candidates for your job, because we know how important that is to make sure you have the perfect candidate. like Riley, who's our incredible producer here, you know, and we wouldn't find people like Riley if it wasn't for our friends over at LinkedIn. And, you know, I can't say that we've ever had a bad producer, but I can just say how much better we are with a great producer like Riley. So if you want to find your own version of Riley, find the right candidate that fits your business and use LinkedIn. You can get 2 times more qualified candidates with their awesome algorithms. You can see why over 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring today. Find your next great hire at LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Rockies. That's linkedin.com/Rockies. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Should we give the Rockies the LinkedIn thing and post the manager, post the general manager?
Didn't the DNVR Nuggets post the GM? Do you have what it takes to be the next GM of the Denver Nuggets?
Yeah, I think they did. We should lean into that. LinkedIn.com/Rockies means you can apply to be the general manager of the Colorado Rockies.
So I always have a hard time, like when I, like personally, when I sit here sometimes and act like I could do better, you know, at running an organization, a professional sports organization. You know, we sit here and we say, well, just do this, and the Rockies would be better. And, you know, the reality is I've never come close to running a Major League Baseball team or organization. And I'd like to think that I couldn't do worse. And maybe there's some truth to the fact that I couldn't do worse if I was in that shoes. But do you guys feel like if Dick Monfort walked up to you and said, you know what, we love your takes on Blake Street Banner. We're going to make you the next general manager of the Colorado Rockies. Would you take it, and do you think you could do a good job?
Based on my fantasy football success and my Madden franchise, I think so. I know that's football, but you know, it is such a hard position to succeed in because at most, you know, you build a stretch of 5 competitive seasons. With the altitude, it's just hard to build a decade plus of winning. You know, and the city will celebrate it. But if I'm in that position, man, I'm delegating all the power to all the pro scouts and everything. So
that's the kicker. Because I'm like, I think that, and again, I don't see behind the curtain. I don't know if Bill Schmidt is getting a bunch of outside information. I don't feel like he is, just given what we've seen. But I'd like to say that, like, if I wasn't qualified enough to do the job, that I would just find a ton of consultants. Who did Sean Payton hire? Or was it, who was it that came in to be like the assistant coach, like consultant for the Broncos? Maybe it was still when Russell Wilson was there.
I'm imagining Hackett bringing in the time management guy.
Was it Hackett who did that? I don't remember. There was some guy that the Broncos brought in to like kind of be like this consultant for the team, basically on the sidelines, you know, with the coach, kind of consulting throughout the game.
I think you're right. I think it was Jerry Rosberg who then became the coach when they fired Hackett.
Correct.
They brought him in to start with time management, and all of a sudden he's the head coach of an NFL franchise.
Yes, that was
that escalated quickly.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's kind of what I'm looking for is like, can we bring in some outside voices to like do an audit of the team and then go one step further from that to say, okay, here's the audit, here's all the things that went wrong. Now let's actually like take that into consideration. Because I think if someone came in and did an audit of the Colorado Rockies right now, the Rockies would probably be like, okay, thanks for that. Cool. We're going to keep doing things our way because that's what's, you know, that's what we feel comfortable with. And the reality is it's just not what's working. Thank you, Drew. Yeah, it was Hackett. You guys are right. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to say that I'd be able to do a better job, and maybe I can truthfully say I wouldn't do a worse job. But I think the big thing, because there is something to be said about the Rockies not being a team that can bring in big free agents. The Rockies are, unfortunately, a very disorganized organization in the eyes of the rest of Major League Baseball. And so for someone who's not on the, you know, the way out of their career, like, I don't know, like a Jimmy Herget or, you know, Alan Trejo, besides like those kind of players, for someone in the prime of their career to go and sign with the Colorado Rockies, there has to be some pretty big incentives. There either has to be a lot of money involved or there has to be a lot of other things that go right. So the reality of the situation is for the Colorado Rockies, you kind of have to be a draft and development team. And baseball as a sport is set up as a sport that you don't just, it's not like football where if you draft Bo Nix as your rookie quarterback, they can make a difference theoretically within year 1 or 2. Or basketball even is the same kind of thing. Baseball, it takes like 5+ years to get guys like Charlie Condon up to the big leagues. So you start paying attention to the minor leagues a lot. And you guys over at Blake Street Banner pay a lot of attention to the minor leagues. And we don't talk a ton of minor leagues on this show just because, God, we're trying to just get through the Rockies as a team. But is there some semblance of hope in our minor league system that can dig us out of a hole from a player development situation?
You know, I think that there's a lot of bright spots on the way that could help. And once they get to the big leagues, then you have to be developed. But think about Zach Agnos coming up this year and being named the closer.
Absolutely. And he's been great, man.
Hasn't had that many chances to close a ball game, but he is the primary closer.
12 innings pitched, 1.5 ERA. He's been a dog.
He's been great.
People.
But the Rockies, they did get Charlie Condon back this past week. He went to low A, and he had 2 multi-hit games this week. So that's a good sign for a guy that broke his wrist and was struggling last season. Higher up in the system, man, the Isotopes, they're last in the Pacific Coast League, and this week they lost another 4 games. Hartford, they're above 500 even after losing 5 games, and Hartford's always pretty darn good. But in terms of pitching, man, Sean Sullivan, got to be on the lookout for him. He had to deal with injuries in the offseason, but he's working his way back. And in terms of big leaguers that might provide help, Tyro Estrada, he's on a rehab assignment in Albuquerque, and Victor Vodnik is in AA with Hartford on a rehab assignment. So in terms of, is there help on the way? Immediately, I'm not sure. But if the Rockies get those big leaguers back, I mean, they seem to think Tyro Estrada is, Jose Altuve. With the way that the Rockies team talks about it.
He looked good in spring training.
We've been wanting that. Just from a standpoint of, yes, we get the teams bad. Yes, they're losing a lot of games. But there's also, Tovar was out for an extended period of time. Doyle was out for an extended period of time. Now Estrada, your starting second baseman, who you expect to hit somewhere between 4 and 6 in the lineup, has been out the whole season. So let's at least get the guys back and see what's going down.
Yeah, and interesting, and this is a good point, or I guess I should say, little news update from Scott in the chat. Rockies announced today that they have recalled Tanner Gordon from AAA, which we kind of knew that was coming. But DFA'd Scott Alexander.
Can't get lefties out, can't get righties
Right
out.
move.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was an offseason signing I liked, but it just hasn't worked out. Shout out Tanner Gordon, though. Who's your legend coming back up? I'm excited for that start.
Are you? I was going to say, what are you feeling about him? I'm not feeling too optimistic about this start, but he's getting thrown in a tough spot.
Not against the Yankees lineup.
Yeah.
Let's get to the
think about
365 app.
Yeah.
Think about what Blaylock did though against the Yankees.
True. That's why I was all hyped over Blaylock.
I think he talks about. He still dreams about that Blaylock start at Yankee
Dude,
Stadium.
that was on like Yankees jersey retire. It was like homecoming for the Yankees legends. And Blaylock went and shut him down in NYC. But rooting for Tanner Gordon pretty hard tonight, and he's got a tall order.
Lux asks when Veen's going to be back, and same with Drew Romo, because especially with Goodman kind of being a little iffy behind the dish, is there a world in which we see Drew Romo coming back sometime soon?
Well, in AAA, he's hitting 170 in May, so he's got to make some more adjustments before he comes back up. I want him up just as much as anyone else, man.
I just can't with his bat, man. That's the hard part. I love Drew Romo's a great dude, but his bat.
I got another question for you. Are you high on Carson Palmquist, and do you think he's just up too early right now? Or do you think, granted, he left a lot of balls right over the middle of the plate, and that he's made it to AAA in the majors, he'll be better than that, but is he someone that you envision being a legit 3-4-5 in an MLB rotation, or is he just the next guy that was available that had a few days off that could come up and start?
The numbers in minor leagues and all the advanced analytics tell us that he should be a very good arm. Easily 3-4-5 in an MLB rotation, especially for the Rockies rotation. Mm-hmm. When watching him in person, man, it's so hard for me not to see Kyle Freeland's body and arm in terms of angle and where he throws the ball from. The problem is the fastball is maxing out at 92. And in the minor leagues, it worked because his extension is among the best in the sport. He releases the ball closer to home plate than anyone else, for those that don't know arm extension. But if you're throwing 92 in the middle of the plate and down, it's going to get mashed at the big league level.
I might be able to hit it.
Yeah, Christian and I had a debate in the press box a little bit about, Tyler Patter with Lake Street Banter. He thoroughly believes that if Palmquist just gets the fastball at the letters, it can be way more successful, even at 92, because of the rise that he gets on it. I think that, man, organizationally, the Rockies don't elevate the fastball with their pitchers. It's like, I know they want to get ground balls at Coors Field, but we've seen the sport benefit when pitchers throw high fastballs, strikeout numbers. Palmquist has, I think, 2 strikeouts, and they were both Kyle Schwarber in his second start.
Yeah.
So
Schwarber's been mashing the baseball.
And
right
we
now.
talked to him after the game, and he said, I was just spinning him to death because he doesn't like that.
Yeah.
Great, figured it out. I want him to be good, and I think he was ready. Like in terms of accomplishing anything more at the minor leagues, I'm not sure if he had to do it. It could just be another thing where the Rockies, think about with Tovar. They brought him up right at the end of the season and just got him a taste of the big leagues. Then they had him go make more adjustments before he came back up for the following season. It could be something like that where the Rockies just desperately need an arm because they do.
Mm-hmm.
They've been less hampered this year than they were in years past. It's been an alarming first 2 starts, but I would just be a little bit patient with Paul.
Yeah, I mean, he's young, and everyone's young on the Rockies. But I do want to. We got to hit our next break. But I do want to, after the break, we got to talk about Chase Dollander. Concern level for him. We do have some news, some updates on Chase Dollander that we'll dish out. We'll get to your question about Zach Veen. When Zach Veen will be back, how he's doing in minor leagues, and we'll kind of preview this Yankee series. Plus, we'll hit a super chat to wrap up the show. That's all coming up next. Well, folks, whether you're on the road, at home, or somewhere in between, First Bank makes banking easy, convenient, and secure. Their mobile banking app allows you to check balances, pay friends, and manage your money anytime, anywhere. And here's the best part. Open a new First Bank checking account today, and you could earn $300. First Bank is all about helping you stay on track. Their tools make it simple to stay in control of your finances without any of that hassle. No matter where life takes you, First Bank gives you the freedom to bank how and when it works best for you. So if you're ready for a better banking and the chance to earn a little extra, head to efirstbank.com/bonus. That's efirstbank.com/bonus to open your account. Bank how you want, when you want with First Bank. Certain restrictions apply and requirements apply. Member FDIC. Well, folks, it is one of our favorite sponsors here on this show, Bet365, because as our motto goes, if the Rockies are going to be bad, you might as well make some money off of it. What's our Bet365 anti-Rockies parlay looking like today? Using code DNVR365, of course.
All right, it is Yankees -1.5. Clark Schmidt, what a name, over 5 strikeouts. Aaron Judge, 1+ hits. Jordan Beck, 1+ hits. He's hitting like 15 of 19 in May, and over 6.5 runs for the Yankees. 30% profit boost from Bet365 to, it looks like, plus 280, and then you're getting the 30% profit boost, so you're getting like plus 360.
Going all in on Clark
Schmidt.
I love it.
5 feels like a good number. I got screwed the other day by the starter for the Taiwan Walker. He didn't strike out anyone.
I know. For once, the Rockies did not.
They put the ball.
What
They
are you
just kept
doing,
putting
bro?
the ball in play.
What are you doing? I know. I love it. So like I said, use that code DNVR365 when you sign up and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Zach Veen. We'll wrap up this minor league conversation. Zach Veen, any news, updates, and or return tables?
He's hitting 170 in May, and he's 4 for his last 34.
Wait, Zach Veen is hitting 170 or Drew Romo? They're
Zach
both hitting
Veen.
170?
Well, Romo is hitting, I think, 200, but he just came back.
Okay.
So if I accidentally said Romo earlier, I meant Zach Veen.
Okay, well, there
4
you go.
for his last 34 and hitting 170 in May. So the strikeouts are still an issue. He's got 13 and 53 at bats. So
Wow.
still
27%
problematic.
In the minors, at least,
28%
or
in the
especially.
minors.
Yeah,
Just
okay,
throw him a fastball above the letters at 92, and he's swinging right through it.
It's another one of those, could you strike out X player? And, maybe I could.
And I think Romo's 4 for 20 since coming back. So very small samples.
Yeah, small sample size. I want Zach Veen to get up. I want him to figure his swing out. Again, you look at what the Rockies have done. Jordan Beck, sent back down to the minors, came back, one of the Rockies' best hitters right now. Michael Tolia, same situation. So I'm hoping that Zach Veen has a similar situation. But unfortunately, hitting 170 in the month of May for Zach, not for Drew, for Zach, is not what he needs to be at. How bummed were you guys when you saw that Chase Dollander was not going to get a start against the Yankees, man? How much of a cherry on top of this season was that news?
I mean, I'm crushed because I don't get another chance to see him.
True.
I'm
This is
out of here after this homestand.
Yeah.
So, really a bummer. And they said it was just precautionary, but man, after German Marquez kept going on the injured list with forearm soreness and then missed the better part of 2 years, I'm very concerned because, gosh, the Rockies need Dollander to be able to contribute. And just last start or the one before, he took a no-hitter into the 6th inning. So he's starting to figure things out.
We were locked in. What's your, we talk about this on the show, but what's your threshold for when you keep an eye out for a no-hitter? Like when are you, for the Rockies, if you see a guy get to what inning and they have no hits, when are you on no-hitter watch?
So when they get through the 4th, because that's after they've already gone through 1, 2, and 3 again.
God, that's such a real approach that you've taken there. We're just like 1 inning in. You didn't give up a hit.
He gets the first out in the top of the 2nd. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Dude, I mean, hasn't that been the case though? I feel like the first batter or the first like pitch of every single, at bat that we've seen this series, or at least the Phillies series, was a base hit.
Spence in the press box, I'm known for, even last year, it's a no-hitter alert as soon as the first pitch is thrown. And so in the Phillies series, it was 2 first at-bat hits, and then yesterday, the second batter of the game got a hit.
Oh, yeah. Turner and Harper wore out our starting pitching. It was like, yesterday I was watching the game on my phone, and I barely got the thing on. It's 2nd and 3rd, nobody out already. And I'm like, or it wasn't yesterday, it was 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And I was oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
The game's, it's 6:41. The game started a minute ago.
The Senza start versus the Phillies, and would be the Yankees too if he gets a start against the Yankees, is just terrifying to me, because it's just a guy who just finds the bat in every single time he pitches. Interesting comment in the Toyota chat by Drew. Chase would have given us the best chance at possibly stealing one from the Yankees. I agree with you, but if it's not Chase, and it won't be Chase, who do you think gives stealing one? You've got Tanner Gordon today, and then it goes to, God, I don't even know what the Rockies rotation is.
Not Herman.
It's not Herman.
I got it. Gordon. And then Freeland versus Max Fried on Saturday.
Oh, yes. Freeland and Fried. Yep.
And then Senza against Will Warren.
Oh, so Senza does get a Yankee start.
I get to see Senza in person. Yikes.
If we get that game in, dude, Sunday's looking a little dicey weather-wise.
I know. It'll rain on us.
It might be dumping on us. Who has the best shot? Because you have to remember, Max Fried, for the Kyle Freeland game, Max Fried is on the other side, so you can expect the offense to put up maybe 1 run, maybe 2.
It's funny looking at the 2 pitchers. It's 6-0 with a 1.29 ERA versus 0-6 with a 5.68 ERA.
And actually, I think Freeland, aside from a couple bad starts, has been pretty good. He just has 0 offensive support.
He gives you the most game. He'll give you the most fight of any of the pitchers,
for sure,
and try to fight through 4 or 5 innings against that absolutely murderous lineup.
Do you guys remember when Kyle Freeland was like the first series of the year? Maybe it was the first game of the year where he has the bases loaded and nobody out with Bohm, Harper, and Schwarber coming up, and he strikes out all 3 of them.
Yeah.
I have never respected a pitcher more than when I saw him do that.
Yeah,
so.
and that was his second start of the year in that Phillies series, he was already coming off his first start where he looked really good. Well, I mean, the whole Rockies rotation looked great that first series and a half.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy cow, is Kyle Freeland back? And I mean, as back as we qualify everything as Rockies related, Rockies level. Kyle Freeland's as back as a pitcher gets. I mean, I think he'll go out there and at least fight, and he doesn't like have the just straight downhill turn that it feels like Senza gets once he starts getting hit against. Like it's like they're going to go through the whole order in this 1 inning.
Yeah, it's and yeah, like you said, we graded on a curve, but I agree. And Lux actually has a great point. Wouldn't be surprised if Freeland actually deals and the Rockies just can't hit Fried whatsoever. That's as Kyle Freeland of a start as you could possibly get. He goes 7 innings, gives up 1 run, and the Rockies lose 1-0.
Well, I mean, let's just go back not even 24 hours, and we get a great start from German Marquez against. I mean, watching the Phillies lineup, it just never ends. It just never stops. 1 through 9, and he gives you a great start, and you score 0 runs.
I will say, if there's one spot on the Yankees that gives you a little bit of hesitation, aside from Fried, it's the pitching. Pitching is the only thing in the Yankees where you're like you could maybe get away with a good game offensively against the Yankees bullpen, that kind of thing.
Well, guys not comfortable with Coors Field.
They have some gaps. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. The Yankees pitching has some gaps. Their offense does not. You're going to have to Blake Street bomber this game. Like it's going to be can you hit enough solo home runs? Or maybe can you hit enough home runs and there be just luckily some guys on base? Because that's also the Rockies' problem. The Rockies have hit a handful of home runs recently. They've kind of caught back up with the home run thing, but they don't ever have guys on base. It's just, we hit 3 solo home runs today and we lost 5-3.
Well, like Spence said yesterday, the Rockies limited the Phillies lineup to 4 hits, and they never threatened. to score. I mean, they had Doyle at third with 1 out, and as soon as that doesn't happen, the Rockies didn't put together a real threat outside of that. As we talk Yankees visiting Coors Field, never forget Alan Trejo walk-off homer. I believe it was 2 years ago.
I don't remember that. Yeah.
And the Rockies won that series with that.
Wow.
So.
Can you imagine? Okay, so another side point here. I keep, I was talking earlier about the fact that I keep waking up feeling like this is just a nightmare and we're going to one day wake up from this and the Rockies are kind of going to get back to being mediocre again, but not this bad. I have that similar feeling every time we start a series against a team, especially a good team, because we're playing so many series against good teams, that like, what if this is the series that the Rockies just shock the world and take 2 out of 3 against the Yankees? And how electric, again, grading on a curve here, but how electric would that be? There's always that just tiny little voice in the back of my head that's just saying, what if? What if the Rockies just go out and take 2 out of 3, or even, God forbid, they sweep the Yankees?
Plan the parade.
How crazy would that be?
We should have a legit parade. I think the Rockies 5K soon. We just flip that into a parade and for winning a series or sweep against the Yankees.
It would be incredible.
If I want to see the Yankees fans, even if they lose one game, we talk about this all the time on the show. If a team loses one game to us, their fan base is besides that Arizona game. Like the amount of pissed off Arizona fans just seeing in the comments of the Arizona, like I will go if the Rockies win tonight, tomorrow, Sunday, whatever. I'm going right to the Yankees Twitter and I'm going to their final score post and I'm just gonna love reading and scrolling through that whole disaster.
It's incredible, dude. Our like PHNX crew, they were posting about the Rockies the day after when the Phillies just crushed us on the first game of the series, and they were like, "How did we lose to this team? How did we even lose a single game?"
Well,
it sticks with you.
Philadelphia was nervous in game 1. The Rockies were up 3-1, and they lost 9-3.
I know. No, that's what I mean. Like after that game ended, they were like, "How did we lose to this team?" And I'm like, it sticks with you, man. If the Rockies can win after Bo Nix throws out the first pitch too, I mean, just the narrative writes itself.
Then he'll have to show up for the rest of the games for the whole season.
Maybe the Rockies will have to be pitching to, or giving a pitch to Bo Nix, say, "Hey man, we need you here every single game."
Bo Nix throwing out the first pitch, the second pitch, third pitch.
We just keep
let him go.
Hey, you can't be better than our ace, Scott Stallings.
Good old Scotty.
Good old Scotty.
Spence, we were talking about it at the ballpark yesterday. Do you remember the last big name to throw out a first pitch at a Rockies game? Because Russ did it.
Right.
Peyton Manning did it.
That would probably, Peyton did.
Like a long time
well,
ago.
probably, big name here, like Todd Helton. Did he do it this year? I think that would probably be, but in the national scale, I don't think we don't have that kind of, I think Peyton Manning would be the biggest that we've ever had.
It's a good point. Yeah, if you guys in the chat, if you guys know of anyone, when was the last time, or who was the last big, I guess you could maybe even say non-athlete, but it could be athlete too, that to throw out a first pitch at the Rockies game? Because Bo Nix is doing it, Russell Wilson did it, Peyton Manning did it, Todd Helton, Charlie Blackmon's retirement first pitch was pretty cool, but he was a player on the team, right? Like, so you can't put him in that list. But I can't think of anyone that has thrown out the first pitch. Dante Bichette, that was this season though. But like over the last 5 years, there hasn't. It's Colorado. I mean, there's not a lot of big name people. Did Lindsey Vaughn ever throw out the? Lindsey Vaughn's from Colorado, right?
Yeah, maybe we'll get Tupac back. He can throw out the first pitch. The
Tupac
hologram with his Catch the Fever shirt, his Rockies Catch the Fever shirt.
Didn't Ice Cube also? There's a picture I have, I think, of Ice Cube wearing a Rockies bomber jacket. Yeah.
Really?
I might have to pull that out.
Getting some pub.
I
love that for us.
I mean, Ice Cube might be the least Rockies fan to ever exist, but he has a picture of him wearing one.
Scott, that's a good one. Wyndham Clark. He should do it.
Okay. Yeah. Wyndham Clark.
Sorry, Scott. Wyndham Clark said J.A.
Oh, did you see his blow up on
the... he's a jag, dude. He's not... I've known him since high school. Not a good dude.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I played high school golf against him.
Damn.
Not fun. Not fun for me to get my ass kicked, but he's also kind of a DB.
Have we ever had like Nathan McKinnon or any of those guys throw out the first pitch? Have we ever had an Avs? Or Nuggets. I can throw the Nuggets in there too. Like Jokic throwing out the first pitch?
Last year, early in the year, the Avs and the Nuggets both had suites at the game. I don't know if they threw out the first pitch, but there was some pub early where it's like, oh, all the Nuggets are here, all the Avs are here.
If Nikola Jokic threw out the first pitch at a Rockies game, oh my God.
I'd go just for that. And I might leave at in the end of the first inning.
Yeah, that would be
during the lineup introductions.
Electric. All right. Just real quick, we are going to be going into overtime here in the next 20 seconds. Extra innings, as we like to call it here. So if you are watching on television at home, head over to thednvr.com and continue this conversation. We have just one more talking point that we have to get through, and that is Rockies series predictions for this series. They are playing the Yankees. The Yankees are projected to hit at least 754 home runs over the next 3 days. What do you think the outcome is? Noah, we'll start with you, guest of the show. What do you think the Rockies do this week? We were wrong on all of our predictions, by the way, for the Philly series.
My heart tells me the Rockies win one game.
Okay.
And it's on getaway day because they have not lost a getaway day on a homestand yet this season.
Okay.
Perfect 4-0 on homestand getaway days.
4-0 for Rockies homestand getaways.
Yeah.
Got you.
I knew there was going to be a little sliver of excitement that we could find. I'm pretty sure of their 8 wins, at least 6 of them, maybe 7, are on the final game of a series.
Well, if you're going to win one in the series, they tell you to win the last one. But shout out to Andrew Mason because he is the one that keeps track of that stuff.
Good old Mace.
The rubber match, but it's not a rubber match if you don't win either of the first 2.
Yeah. I know. Dude, if we take one win against the Yankees, I am feeling good.
Yeah.
I'm feeling great.
I don't feel great about Gordon tonight, but there was a comment in there. And this is, I do think, like you said, when we play the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks and those teams that are much better than us, which is every team almost, but when they come to Coors Field and they're a division rival, they've played at Coors Field before. These teams that play here once every other year, that Max Fried, I think, had 5 runs and 4 earned his last start here. We've gotten to, this is different Rockies offenses in the past that have been a little better, but I do think that there will be some adjustment for the Yankees pitching that one of the guys is going to give up 5 or 6 runs and we might steal one.
Okay. All right. I'm with Lux. I'm thinking this is going to be a Yankees sweep, but never say never. I'd be pleasantly surprised by at least one win. If you get more than one win in this series, holy shit, we are celebrating here. We might have to do an emergency pod if the Rockies win a series against the Yankees. That is exactly how it is. Hey, we got to hit our super chat before we wrap things up. Spencer, can you put on your little?
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
We're back.
From Lux. Sell the team. Love the super chat. And that is, maybe that's our only hope at this point. It's at least Spencer's only hope. Noah, thank you for hanging out with us. Noah's from Blake Street Banter. You can find them at Blake Street Banter, Blake ST Banter, Noah Spirek on the socials. Spencer, as always, Christian, Riley for making us look good. And thank you guys for hanging out with us. We'll see you guys next time. This has been the DNVR Rockies podcast presented by Bet365.
We all silly like the mayor.